Okay. We didn't know there was a permit needed for zero harm fresh water being on the ground in a place where fresh water falls from the sky all the time.
Got it. Next to the ocean.
Next to the ocean.
Because there's a little bit of water there too.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it rains so much the roads are flooded. So we're like, how does this make any sense?
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, we're not going to process any more of your applications for launch, for Starship launch, unless you pay this $140,000. So they just ransomed us, and we're like, okay, so we paid $140,000. But it's like, this is no good. I mean, at this rate, we're never going to get to Mars.
I mean, that's the confounding part here.
Yeah.
Is we're acting against our own self-interest. When you look at, we do have to make, putting aside fresh water, but hey, the rocket makes a lot of noise. So I'm certain there's some complaints about noise once in a while, but sometimes you want to have a party or you want to make progress and there's a little bit of noise. Therefore, we trade off a little bit of noise for massive progress or even fun.
Yes.
So when did we stop being able to make those trade-offs? But talk about the difference between California and Texas, where you and I now reside. Texas, you were able to build the Gigafactory. I remember when you got the plot of land, and then it seemed like it was less than 2 years when you had the party to open it.
Yeah. From start of construction to completion was 14 months. 14 months.
Is there anywhere on the planet that would go faster? Is China faster than that?
China was 11 months.
Got it. So Texas, China, 11 and 14 months. California, how many months?
And just to give you a sense of size, our Tesla Gigafactory in China is 3 times the size of the Pentagon.
Which was the biggest building in America?
No, there are bigger buildings, but the Pentagon's a pretty big one.
Yeah, or it was the biggest.
In units of Pentagon, it's like 3.
Okay, 3 Pentagons and counting.
Yeah.
Got it.
In 14 months. Just the regulatory approvals in California would have taken 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's the issue.
Where do you think the regulation helps? Like for the people that will say, we need some checks and balances. We can't have some, because for every good actor like you, there'll be a bad actor. So where's that line then? Yeah,
I mean, I haven't in sort of doing sensible deregulation and reduction in the size of government is just like be very public about it and say like, which of these rules do you, if the public is really excited about a rule and wants to keep it, we'll just keep it. Yeah. And here's the thing about the rules: if the rule is turns out to be a bad, we'll just put it right back. Okay, and then problem solved. It's like it's easy to add rules, but we don't actually have a process for getting rid of them. That's the issue. There's no garbage collection for rules.
When we were watching you work, David and I and Antonio, in that first month at Twitter, which was all hands on deck, and you were doing zero-based budgeting, you really quickly got the costs under control, and then miraculously, everybody said this site will go down, and you added 50 more features. So maybe explain, because this is the first time.
Yeah, there were so many articles like this is Twitter is dead forever. There's no way it could possibly even continue at all.
It was almost like the press was rooting for you to fail.
Let's write the obituary. Like, here's the obituary.
They're all saying their goodbyes on Twitter. Remember that?
Yeah.
They were all leaving and saying their goodbyes because the site was going to melt down. And
to totally fail and
all the journalists left.
And
which is if you ever want to like hang out with a bunch of hall monitors, oh my God, Threads is amazing. Every time I go over there and post, they're like. They're really triggered, but
I mean, if you like being condemned repeatedly, then for reasons that make no sense, then Threads is the way to go.
Yeah, it's really it's the most miserable place on earth. If Disney's the happiest, this is the anti-Disney. Yeah. But if we were to go into government, you went into the Department of Education or pick the department. You've worked with a lot of them actually.
Sure.
You can't go in there in zero-based budget. Okay, we get it. But if you could just pair 2, 3, 4, 5% of those organizations, what kind of impact could that have?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd need to do more than that. I think
ideally, but compounding every year, 2, 3% a year. I mean, it would be better than what's happening now.
Yeah, look, I think we've if Trump wins, and obviously I suspect there are people with mixed feelings about whether that should happen, but we do have an opportunity to do kind of a once-in-a-lifetime deregulation and reduction in the size of government. Because the other thing, besides the regulations, America is also going bankrupt extremely quickly. And everyone seems to be sort of whistling past the graveyard on this one. But
they're all grabbing the silverware. Everyone's stuffing their pockets in the silverware before the Titanic sinks. It's like,
well, the Defense Department budget is a very big budget. Okay, it's $1 trillion a year. DoD Intel, it's $1 trillion. And interest payments on the national debt just exceeded the Defense Department budget. They're over $1 trillion a year, just in interest, and rising. We're adding $1 trillion to our debt, which our kids and grandkids are going to have to pay somehow. Every 3 months, and then soon it's going to be every 2 months, and then every month, and then the only thing we'll be able to pay is interest. And if this is, it's just it's just like a person at scale that has racked up too much credit card debt, and this does not have a good ending. And so we have to reduce the spending.
let me ask one question, because I've brought this up a lot, and the counter argument I hear, which I disagree with, but the counter argument I hear from a lot of politicians is, if we reduce spending, because right now if you add up federal, state, and local government spending, it's between 40 and 50% of GDP. So nearly half of our economy is supported by government spending, and nearly half of people in the United States are dependent directly or indirectly on government checks, and either through contractors that the government pays, or they're employed by a government entity. So if you go in and you take too hard an axe too fast, you will have significant contraction, job loss, and recession. What's the balancing act, Elon? Just thinking realistically, because I'm 100% on board with you. The next set of steps, however, assume Trump wins and you become the chief DOGE of DOG,
like double G.
And I think the challenge is how quickly can we go in? How quickly can things change? And without
I want that on my business card.
Yeah. without all the contraction and job loss.
Mascot.
Yeah. So I guess, how do you really address it when so much of the economy and so many people's jobs and livelihoods are dependent on government spending?
Well, I mean, I do think it's sort of it's a false dichotomy. It's not like no government spending is going to happen. You really have to say, like, is it the right level? And just remember that any given person, if they are doing things in a less efficient organization versus a more efficient organization, their contribution to the economy, their net output of goods and services will reduce. I mean, you've got a couple of clear examples between East Germany and West Germany, North Korea and South Korea. I mean, North Korea, they're starving. South Korea, it's like amazing.
It's the future.
The compounding effect of productivity gains. Yeah.
Yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah.
And so in the North Korea, you've got 100% government. In South Korea, you've got probably, 40% government. It's not zero.
Yeah.
And yet you've got a standard of living that is probably 10 times higher in South Korea. At least, exactly. And then East and West Germany, in West Germany, you had, just thinking in terms of cars, I mean, you had BMW, Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, and East Germany, which is a random line on a map. The only car you could get was a Trabant, which is basically a lawnmower with a shell on it. And it was extremely unsafe. There was a 20-year wait. So you put your kid on the list as soon as they're conceived. And even then, only I think a quarter of people maybe got this lousy car. And it's just the same. So that's just an interesting example of, like, basically the same people, different operating system. Yeah. And it's not like West Germany was some a capitalist heaven. It's quite socialist, actually. So so when you look, probably it was half government in West Germany and 100% government in East Germany. And again, it's sort of a call it at least a 5 to 10x standard of living difference, and even qualitatively vastly better. And it's obviously, sometimes people have these, amazingly in this modern era, this debate as to which system is better. Well, I'll tell you which system is better. The one that doesn't need to build the wall to keep people in. Okay, that's how you can tell. Okay,
Yeah.
it's a dead giveaway.
Spoiler alert.
Dead giveaway.
Are they climbing the wall to
Dead
get out
giveaway
or come
is
in?
you have to build a barrier to keep people in. That is the bad system. It wasn't West Berlin that built the wall. Okay, they were like, anyone who wants to flee West Berlin, go ahead.
Speaking of walls.
So, and if you look at sort of the flux of boats from Cuba, there's a large number of boats from Cuba, and there's a bunch of free boats that anyone can take to
They're empty
go
on the way
back to Cuba.
Yeah.
Like,
plenty of seats.
there's like, hey, wow, an abandoned boat. I could use this boat to go to Cuba, where they have communism. Awesome.
Yes.
And yet nobody picks up those boats and does it. Amazing.
You've given this a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Wait, so your point is jobs will be created. If we cut government spending
Yes.
in half,
Yes.
jobs will be created fast enough to make up for, just to counter.
Yes. No, obviously, I'm not suggesting that people, are immediately tossed out with no severance and can't pay their mortgage. There needs to be some reasonable off ramp where.
Transition plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a reasonable off ramp where they're still earning, they're still receiving money, but have a year or two to find jobs in the private sector, which they will find, and then they will be in a different operating system. Again, you can see the difference. East Germany was incorporated into West Germany. Living standards in East Germany rose dramatically.
In 4 years, if you could shrink the size of the government with Trump, what would be a good target? Just in terms of ballpark.
I mean, are you trying to get me assassinated before this even happens?
No. Pick a low number.
I mean, there's that old phrase, go postal. I mean, it's like they might.
Yeah.
On me.
So we'll keep the post office.
I mean, I'm going to need a hell of a security detail, guys.
Yes.
I mean, the sheer number of disgruntled workers, former government employees, is quite a scary number. I mean, I might not make it.
I was saying low digits every year for 4 years would be palatable. Yeah, and I like your idea of an off-ramp.
But the thing is that if it's not done, if you have a once in a lifetime or once in a generation opportunity, and you don't take serious action, and then you have 4 years to get it done, and then if it doesn't get done, then
how serious is Trump about this? You've talked to him about it, yeah?
Yeah, I think he is very serious about it.
Got it.
And no, I think actually the reality is that if we get rid of nonsense regulations and shift people from the government sector to the private sector, we will have immense prosperity, and I think we will have a golden age in this country, and it'll be fantastic.
Can we talk about SpaceX?